All right, we're going to look at a similar problem to 420, but now assuming the weighted average costing method. The biggest difference between the weighted average method and FIFO is with FIFO, remember, we didn't take into account the costs incurred in a prior period. We only were concerned with the costs incurred during the period of time, in this case, the month of June. For weighted average, we will take into account any beginning work in process costs incurred in a prior period. We will meld them together. The assumption here, if we're going to use weighted average costs, is that from period to period, there isn't a huge fluctuation in cost per unit, and therefore it's not going to skew the numbers in any way, shape, or form. So in this case, we'll just combine everything to calculate that weighted average cost as far as equivalent units and then the cost per unit. So similar question stem to exercise 420. DeRozan Inc. produces basketball shoes in two separate departments, assembly and inspecting. In the assembly department, all materials are added at the beginning of the process. Production data for June is as follows. So we see units in beginning work in process as of June 1st. They are 35% complete with respect to conversion costs. So there's 14,000 units. Units completed and transferred out were 76,000 units, and units in process as of June 30th that are 60% complete with respect to conversion costs are 23,000 units. Based off of this, they want us to prepare the units information section of a production report, assuming the weighted average costing method. So again, the top part is not going to differ from what we did in exercise 420 under the FIFO method. We're going to get the same information. So if we look at units to account for, we started with 14,000 units in beginning work in process. To figure out how many units we started in June, we need to figure out this formula here, units started and completed plus ending work in process, but we need to figure out that started and completed. How do we calculate the started and completed? That's this formula here, units completed minus beginning work in process. If you remember in the question, we can just bring it up here, units completed during the month were 76,000 units, and units in beginning work in process were 14,000. So that means units started and completed for the month of June were 62,000 units. So to figure out how many units we started in June, we take the units started and completed of 62,000. We add to it ending work in process, which was 23,000 units. We have 85,000 units that were started in June. So the total amount of units we have to account for is 99,000. And that's going to match, again, our total units accounted for. Our total units to now we have to see where are those 99,000 units ending up. We started and completed 62,000 units during the month. We also completed from beginning work in process the entire 14,000 units. So we completed and transferred out 76,000 units, which we already knew. And then we ended the month with 23,000 units on hand. So that's what the makeup of the 99,000 units that we have to account for. The difference here is going to be the equivalent unit schedule. For the weighted average method, it is a little bit more simple here because we don't have to differentiate beginning work in process and ending work in process because we are not separating them out. We're taking all costs from all prior periods. And since there's not a huge fluctuation in costs per period, we're not differentiating between the two. So notice here in our schedule, it's a little different than exercise 420. We don't have a line item for beginning work in process. We have a line item for units that were completed during the month. And with respect to both direct material and conversion costs, those are each going to be 100% complete. The actual amount was 76,000. So the theoretical amount for direct material equivalent units completed is going to also be 76,000. Same for conversion costs. Then we have to look at ending work in process units and what is the equivalent unit measure there. We had actually 23,000 units in ending work in process. Since material is added at the beginning of the process, those are going to be 100% complete with respect to direct material. So we simply it's going to be the same, the 23,000. You can go times 1. We can obviously get 23,000. For conversion costs, they are 60% complete with respect. The ending work in process of 23,000 units are 60% complete with respect to conversion costs. So all we do is take the ending work in process of 23,000 and multiply it by 0.6. And we see for direct materials, we have equivalent units of 99,000. For conversion costs, we added up. We theoretically could have fully completed 89,800 units with respect to the amount of conversion costs we've paid up until this point.